Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore who Michael Myers is. One of the most legendary, chilling, mysterious, and iconic killers we've ever seen in horror cinema is Michael Myers, also known as the Boogeyman or the Shape. He is the main antagonist in the Halloween film franchise, where he serves as the central figure of terror in the various stories he appears in. Michael Myers was originally an ordinary child until, at the age of 6, he murdered his older sister. As a result, he was committed to a psychiatric hospital where he never spoke again. Eventually, as an adult, he managed to escape, beginning a horrific killing spree in the town of Haddonfield, Illinois. That's why in this video, I'll detail the origins of Michael Myers within this new timeline, which takes only the first movie as its foundation and continues with the 2018 sequel. I'll also provide a complete summary of the events from the first movie and a brief recap of the key elements from the 2018 installment. Later, I'll explain why Michael Myers in this new saga possesses supernatural powers. Additionally, I'll discuss his physical appearance, what we know about his personality and behavior, and I'll outline his interests, skills, and known powers. Michael Myers was born on October 19, 1957, in Haddonfield, Illinois, in the United States, as the son of Peter and Edith Myers. He had an older sister named Judith and a younger sister. The family, seemingly normal, lived in a 2-story suburban home in the town. However, when Michael turned 6, strange things began to happen to him, such as experiencing horrible and unusual nightmares. He also started to display violent tendencies, claiming to hear voices that told him to hate everyone. On October 31st, 1963, at the age of 6, Michael committed his first murder. His parents had gone to a party, leaving him in the care of his older sister Judith. However, Judith decided to take the opportunity to spend time more intimately with her boyfriend at home. After her boyfriend, Danny, left, Michael seized the moment. Dressed in his clown costume, he went to the kitchen, grabbed a large knife, and proceeded to his sister's bedroom, where he stabbed her repeatedly, killing her. Strangely, Michael then sat outside the house, waiting for his parents. When they arrived, they found him holding a knife covered in blood. Horrified, Peter and Edith Myers rushed into the house and discovered Judith's lifeless body. Michael was arrested for the crime, and due to his young age and the horrific nature of his actions, he was diagnosed as mentally ill. He was sent to Smith's Grove, a psychiatric hospital in Illinois, where he became the patient of Dr. Samuel Loomis. Michael spent the next 15 years there, remaining almost completely motionless and never speaking again, despite Dr. Loomis's attempts to communicate with and treat him. However, on October 30th, 1978, at the age of 21, Michael Myers escaped from his room at the hospital. In an extraordinary turn of events, he caused chaos by freeing other patients, creating confusion among the staff and doctors. That same night, Dr. Loomis and Nurse Marion Chambers arrived at the hospital to transport Michael to court for a routine hearing with a judge, as he was now a legal adult. When Dr. Loomis noticed patients wandering outside the hospital, he got out of the car to investigate. Michael took this opportunity to attack Nurse Chambers and steal Dr. Loomis's car, making his escape. As he traveled through Illinois, Michael stopped to kill a truck driver and stole his clothes, including a blue jumpsuit. He then continued on to Haddonfield and returned to his childhood home. The following day, October 31st, Laurie Strode, a young girl, dropped off the key to the Myers house so her father, a realtor, could retrieve it later. Upon seeing Laurie, Michael decided to target her and began stalking her and her friends, Annie and Linda, throughout the day. Later that afternoon, Michael stole Judith's tombstone and some knives from a local hardware store, as well as a Halloween mask. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis traced Michael to Haddonfield and warned the local sheriff, Brackett, about the danger Michael posed. Unfortunately, at first, the police do not take the doctor very seriously. That night, Laurie and her friend were babysitting children in 2 houses directly across from each other. Michael was watching them from the shadows and eventually managed to to strangle one of them in her car as she was going to pick up her boyfriend. To ensure she was dead, he then slit her throat. Later, Linda and her boyfriend Bob arrived at the house, but they too became victims of Michael. Bob was brutally killed by being stabbed against a wall. As for Linda, Michael used a bedsheet as a disguise to pretend to be Bob before strangling her to death. When her friends didn't call or return to the house, Lori decided to investigate the house they were in. There, she discovered Judith Myers' tombstone along with Annie's body, and in the closets, the bodies of Bob and Linda. This is where Michael attacked Lori directly, chasing her to the other house. Eventually, Lori stabbed Michael with a metal hook and later with his own knife. During this confrontation, Lori briefly removed Michael's mask, giving her a glimpse of his face. Following her screams, Dr. Loomis arrived at the house and shot Michael 6 times with his revolver, causing him to fall off the balcony. However, when Loomis and Lori looked down to check, Michael was gone. It is implied that the police eventually found and arrested him, thanks to Dr. Loomis working with law enforcement. Michael Myers was once again arrested and sent to a maximum security psychiatric hospital for dangerous criminals. Dr. Loomis, after witnessing all this, was unable to treat Michael further. Strangely, the killer never spoke or responded to the attempts of different doctors who tried to get him to explain his motives. 40 years later, Dr. Loomis passed away, and Michael fell under the care of Dr. Ranbir Sartain. Like Loomis, Sartain tried to stimulate Michael to speak, but unlike Loomis, Sartain wanted to deeply understand the reasons behind the murders and know what Michael truly thought. However, he too failed, and the legendary killer remained silent for decades. The day before Michael was set to be transferred to a new maximum security psychiatric hospital, 2 investigative journalists, Aaron and Dana, visited him. Incredibly, it seemed Michael didn't acknowledge their presence, as he paid them no attention, even when Aaron pulled out Michael's old mask and showed it to him, shouting for him to look and say something. Nevertheless, Michael remained stoic, silent, and didn't turn to face them at all. The following night, during Michael's transfer on a bus, he escaped when the vehicle crashed into a ditch. This was orchestrated by Dr. Sartain, who provoked Michael because he wanted to see him in action to better understand him. Sartain manipulated and killed the security guards escorting Michael. When a car stopped to help, Michael killed the occupants and stole their vehicle. He then traveled back to Haddonfield and quickly tracked down Aaron and Dana, who had gone to visit Judith Myers' grave to record a segment for their program. Michael followed them to a nearby gas station. After killing a mechanic and taking his blue jumpsuit and boots, Michael also murdered the store clerk by gruesomely breaking his jaw. Michael then went to the bathroom where Dana was and dropped some teeth from his previous victim to intimidate her before attacking. Aaron, after discovering the bodies of the gas station staff, tried to save Dana, but Michael brutally beat him to death, smashing his head against the bathroom walls repeatedly. Michael then strangled Dana in a morbid manner. Afterward, Michael opened the car's trunk and retrieved his mask, putting it on one last time in an epic and chilling fashion. Later that night, Michael began killing some of Haddonfield's residents. First, he attacked a woman in her home, killing her with a hammer. He then moved to a neighbor's house, stabbing her in the neck with a knife. Afterward, he murdered a young woman named Vicky and her boyfriend Dave. Shortly after, Michael encountered Laurie Strode for the first time in 40 years. Although Laurie shot him in the shoulder, it barely affected him, allowing him to momentarily escape the area. Eventually, Michael crossed paths with a young man named Oscar in the large yard of a house. Michael stabbed him in the back and impaled him on a metal fence spike. Michael then saw Laurie's granddaughter, Allison, and began chasing her, though she temporarily managed to escape. At that moment, Michael was walking down a desolate street when Officer Frank Hawkins deliberately ran him over, leaving Michael unconscious for a while. Frank attempted to finish him off by shooting him in the head, but Dr. Sartain incapacitated the officer before he could, saving Michael. Sartain then took Michael's mask and placed the killer's body in the back of the police car along with Allison, whom he had also captured. Eventually, Michael woke up, put on his mask, and broke through the protective metal barrier by kicking it, causing Sartain to crash the car. When the injured Sartain begged Michael to speak and say something, Michael merely stared at him in desperation before crushing his head brutally, killing him instantly. Allison managed to momentarily escape, while Michael was distracted and fled to her grandmother Laurie Strode's nearby cabin. Michael noticed another patrol car arriving to investigate and killed both officers, turning their heads into a macabre Halloween lamp. Michael reached Laurie's house and quickly killed her daughter's husband, Ray, upon arriving. He then proceeded to attack Laurie again. After a brutal fight, Laurie shot off several of Michael's fingers with a shotgun. Despite Michael's attacks on Laurie, Karen, and Allison, they managed to trick and injure him, ultimately trapping him in Laurie's basement, which was rigged with gas outlets and flames. Michael stood stoically, watching Laurie and her family escape as the house burned around him. It is assumed Michael will escape the fiery house and continue his killing spree in Halloween Kills. Well, here we've already covered in depth the origin and complete story of Michael Myers in this new timeline. Now, I want to talk to you and explain why I believe that Michael Myers in these new films still possesses some supernatural qualities, and why I think he is not just a normal human being. Michael Myers was created by the master of horror, John Carpenter, not only to be a legendary and ruthless killer in horror films, but also, according to Carpenter, as a manifestation of evil. Essentially, the personification of human malice. Although in this timeline Michael Myers is not directly aided by Celtic cultists or by the Curse of Thorn, which forced him to commit terrible murders and kill all members of his family, as happened in the original saga, we can conclude that his supernatural abilities stem mainly from the fact that he is essentially living evil. This becomes evident in some comments made by Dr. Loomis in the first film. He says the following: "I met him 15 years ago. They told me there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, even in the most rudimentary sense, of life or death, of good or evil. I met this 6-year-old child with a blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes. The devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil." The doctor also mentions the following: "Michael Myers is the most dangerous patient I have ever treated or observed. He's deceiving all of us. The catatonia he displays is a conscious act, as there is an instinctive force within him that is simply waiting patiently." After the events of the first film, Dr. Loomis stated in a 1979 interview that he believed condemning Michael Myers to death was the most sensible course of action, as there was no benefit in keeping such evil alive. In the 2018 film, we hear a recording that states the following: "It doesn't seem that he truly has a conscience. I will be with him to ensure that his life is extinguished. I will place my ear to his chest to confirm that he has no pulse and that his vital signs are no longer functioning. Then I think the most reasonable thing to do would be to destroy the body. That evil must die." We can conclude, both from the original concept by director John Carpenter and from these comments by Dr. Loomis in the original film and the 2018 movie, that Michael Myers is, in fact, merely a conduit, a puppet of evil. This is why it is almost impossible to kill him, and why he possesses some supernatural abilities, which become even more apparent in Halloween Kills. Although the Curse of Thorn and Michael Myers' connection to the Celtic pagan cult no longer seem to be canonical in this universe or timeline, I conclude that his supernatural resistance is undeniable. This is evident in the original film, when Dr. Loomis shoots him point blank with his revolver, and Michael does not die, as well as in the numerous gunshots he receives in the 2018 film, and the fact that he always gets back up and continues killing in such an implacable manner. I believe this must be the result of something supernatural and demonic, especially since Michael carries out his murders on Halloween or during Samhain, the time of year when druidic occultists performed rituals. This supernatural element can also be inferred from the fact that whenever Michael suffers severe injuries or appears to die, such as when he is brutally run over and left unconscious, he seems to somehow revive, rising stronger and more bloodthirsty than before. This indicates that, in some way, Michael Myers is connected to a powerful entity, a malevolent demon, that grants him his incredible abilities and powers. Well, this wraps up this topic, so now I'll talk about Michael Myers' physical appearance, the little we know about his personality and behavior, and explain his extraordinary known abilities. Michael Myers appears as a tall and somewhat stocky man, though he generally has a slim build. He wears black boots and his signature blue coveralls, resembling those of a truck driver or mechanic. Additionally, he dons a macabre and terrifying mask that portrays a face devoid of any emotion or expression, with brown hair. In reality, the mask is a Captain Kirk mask painted completely white, with the sideburns removed and the features softened. This mask was chosen by the director because it truly lacked any facial expression, just like the killer Michael Myers. The mask he wears in the 2018 film is similar to the original, but shows cracks and wear, emphasizing that it's an old mask over 40 years old. Generally, Michael carries a large kitchen knife, which he uses to kill his victims. However, he is also capable of using other types of weapons, such as hammers or saws, to carry out his murders. Michael possesses a chilling personality as a violent sociopath who shows no regard for human life. It doesn't matter if it's an adult, a child, or a teenager. He has always maintained this attitude. Interestingly, he exhibits behavior similar to that of a predator hunting its prey. This explains why, in this version, Michael generally does not kill babies and spares his younger sister's life, as babies do not represent a challenge or a threat to him. However, it's important to note that this version of Michael Myers does kill animals, mainly if they get in his way and prevent him from achieving his goal. This demonstrates a purely savage mentality when he kills, making him incapable of having a sense of normality, empathy, or remorse. Michael also does not show any real interest, enthusiasm, or concern for anyone or anything. His sole purpose appears to be killing anyone who stands in his way. However, it's worth highlighting that he has a particular interest in killing Laurie Strode and her family. This is apparently due to an implicit connection between them, and might also be because Michael remembers that Laurie managed to escape from him in 1978, leading him to seek to finish her off in 2018 in this new timeline. In this version, Michael Myers is presented as a kind of supernatural force, staying true to Carpenter's original concept. For this reason, we can say that he is seemingly human, but at the same time he is not, as he represents evil incarnate. Michael has incredible abilities that make him a legendary killer and a nearly unbeatable threat. First, he possesses superhuman strength that far surpasses that of his victims. This is evident in the first film, where he kills someone by lifting them into the air with one hand, effortlessly, and then stabbing them with his knife, pinning them to the wall without any difficulty. Similarly, in the 2018 film, despite being 61 years old, Michael is able to overpower and kill anyone who stands in his way, even younger, stronger men. For example, he kills a gas station attendant by ripping off his jaw with no effort whatsoever. Likewise, this incredible strength is evident in the various victims Michael kills throughout the film, especially the police officers. Despite being younger than him and trained, Michael manages to kill them quickly. He also exhibits supernatural resistance and durability, as he can withstand direct gunfire from various firearms without being significantly affected. Michael keeps attacking as if nothing had happened, showing no signs of bleeding out. Even when he is hit by a police truck, he is only incapacitated for a few minutes. After that, he gets up and continues his killing spree. It is implied that Michael does not feel physical pain either, which is demonstrated when Laurie blows off some of his fingers, and he doesn't react or scream in pain. Moreover, Michael appears to possess superhuman stamina, as he shows no signs of fatigue, despite being an older man who has sustained severe injuries multiple times. One of his most remarkable abilities is his incredible stealth. On many occasions, Michael stalks his victims for a while without being detected and attacks them when it is too late for them to escape. Some fans speculate that this version of Michael Myers might have the ability to teleport or move supernaturally within his environment. This would explain why, even though he always walks and never runs, he seems to catch up to his victims effortlessly and vanish unexpectedly in different locations. However, it is more likely that he is simply extremely efficient in his surroundings and that his extraordinary stealth creates the illusion of teleportation, even though that is not the case. The only weakness of this version of Michael Myers is that, to some extent, he remains mortal and human. It is implied that he could eventually die after suffering multiple direct attacks with various firearms, or, as Dr. Loomis suggested, if he were completely dismembered and burned. However, this is extremely difficult to achieve, as Michael is highly resistant and will not allow himself to be killed without putting up a brutal fight. Another of his weaknesses is that he can fall into certain traps, as potential victims might deceive him, especially while being pursued or if his mask is removed. Losing his mask motivates him to retrieve it, which could momentarily distract him. And well, that's all we know about Michael Myers in this new timeline. Honestly, if you're a horror fan, he's probably one of your favorites, as he's an iconic character from classic slasher cinema. He has always been a great character because he is enigmatic and complex. His motivations are never directly revealed, why he kills people or why he does what he does. I love the concept of Michael Myers being the personification of evil, as it adds a supernatural and mysterious element to his character. In my opinion, this version of Michael strikes a perfect balance between a certain level of realism and a supernatural touch, making him truly terrifying and memorable. Personally, I've always liked Michael's design. Even though it's simple, it's genuinely sinister and terrifying. His iconic mask gives the character a very haunting appearance. It's because of all the mystery surrounding this version of Michael, the immense power he displays, and his incredible iconic design that he has such a commanding presence on screen. That's why I believe he's the best killer in the classic horror genre, as many other slasher villains take inspiration from him. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Were you already familiar with Michael Myers? Did you know his full story and origins in this new timeline? Who is your favorite slasher in the horror genre? Lastly, do you agree with my theory that Michael is the personification of evil, and that's why he has a supernatural edge? Or do you think they should provide another explanation for him in the new films? Comment below with your answers to these questions and your general opinion about the legendary killer Michael Myers from Halloween. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share it to support the channel and subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.